So welcome everybody to our wonderful Savvy Ladies event. We're going to be getting started in just a few minutes. We have, if you can believe it, 350 amazing people registered for our event tonight. And it's going to be an amazing evening with fantastic celebrity speakers and thought leaders at the top of their field. And just a great big shout out to everyone who's joining today. We all know that we could probably be in 10 other places, including the bathtub with a glass of champagne. But you are here and you are focused on your health and your wealth, and that's where you need to be. And so I just want to say a great big thank you so much for being here. So we're going to be spending a few more minutes until the rest of our wonderful attendees be able to join us. And for those of you that are not on video, feel free to jump on video. This is a safe space. In fact, don't judge me. I have my hair back in a ponytail because I took a 5-minute shower after my workout and got here to make sure I was on time. So if you don't judge me, no one's going to judge you. And so feel free. We want to make this even though we have so many amazing individuals coming this evening, we'd love to make it a warm event.
Today's just hotter.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
Right. So it looks like we have someone who's, if you could put yourselves on mute, don't worry, there will be some wonderful opportunities for everyone to unmute,
Hello.
ask questions. And so again, a great big thank you to everyone joining. We're going to get started probably at 6:06, so in about 2 minutes. But while more people are joining, I just want to share some really interesting information from you. So one of the things that you did in addition to registering was answering a very important question. And that question was, do you feel like you have a sound, secure financial plan to manage your personal health care needs? And 63% of you said you have some plan. 25% said, haven't thought about this. I don't have a plan. And 12% are all-stars this evening, said they are all set. So first off, I would love for everyone to go down to the bottom of your screen, and on the lower right hand, you're going to see reactions. And so any of you that put that you are all set with starting to plan and managing your healthcare needs and costs, please give me a thumbs up. And all of those other individuals, we are going to give you a wonderful hand clap. Please give some hand claps for all those individuals who were able to answer. Just so you know, it's about 88% of us that haven't really done the planning to think about our healthcare needs. And I want you to know that this is not a special population. This is the normal population. And in particular for women, we find that we tend to take care of others. We tend to put others first. And what happens? We put ourselves in the back seat. And studies have shown that women are less likely to go for checkups than our male counterparts. We're less likely to make more likely to put off an operation or an important medical procedure because of either cost or other time commitments. Again, not necessarily as high numbers that we see for men. So 88% of people here, the numbers even higher in the normal population. So with that, we should celebrate that we've got a group of overachievers here, which I'm not surprised because that's what Savvy Ladies is all about. And so tonight we're going to be talking about her health and her wealth. And before we get started, I want to go ahead and make sure that you have all the tools that you can use to get the most from our time tonight. The first is the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and give a great big welcome to everyone in the chat. And if you could go ahead and just put in your name, where you're calling, where you're zooming in from, and what your biggest financial medical worry is. What's your biggest worry about your medical issues, either now or in the future? Feel free to put that in. Is it having enough to cover when you're in your retirement age years? Is it enough to pay for the high cost of health insurance? Is it enough to pay for those deductibles? And as we know, seeing prescription medications go up, sometimes double, even triple. And unfortunately, not all health insurance is covering that. What are your worries? And so please put them all in, and we're going to try and make this as interactive as possible. So one of the things I forgot to tell you who I am. I'm Stacy Francis. I started Savvy Ladies. We're going on 20 years. We're so blessed. And we have a great evening tonight. What I want to do first is just go ahead and introduce a very special woman, Judy Herbst, who is our Executive Director of Savvy Ladies, and really deserves so much credit for the special evening that you have tonight. Do you want to say hi really quickly, Judy?
Absolutely. Well, everyone, welcome to this really exciting event tonight. I am thrilled to be able to partner Savvy Ladies to partner with Healthy Women. And Beth Battaglio is here, joining in partnership with Savvy Ladies to really talk to you and have this really frank conversation together, because it is so interconnected. And instead of being siloed, which so many times happens, bringing this conversation to the Healthy Women audience, to the Savvy Ladies audience of women is just so exciting and so needed, that this I see as a kickoff to many, many more programming that we can bring all of you together to do and have. So it is really my honor to have everyone here tonight and get the most out of it. Ask your questions. This is a conversation, it's a dialogue, and it's not a webinar. We're not talking one way to you. We want to hear from you. We want to engage with you and make it very meaningful. So thank you for being here with us.
And I am so honored to be co-hosting this and emceeing this with Beth Battaglio. She is the CEO of Healthy Women, and she is also on the front line. She is a nurse as well. I'm not sure how you manage all of that, Beth, but if you want to go ahead and say a few words too, that would be just a blessing.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacy and Judy. I'm so glad we finally got this off the ground. It's a pleasure to be here tonight with all of you lovely ladies to talk about something that we know at Healthy Women is so important. And I know personally that the financial piece of our health, financial health affects our overall health. And here at Healthy Women, it's all about doing our research, and every survey that we've done, and I don't think this is going to be surprising to any of you, that the financial stress piece is always the top three. It's family, it's sleep, and then it's finances. And when you take a step back, you're like, of course you're not sleeping because you're worried about your family and you're worried about your finances. So yeah, perfect trifecta. And Stacy, as you were talking about the importance of like your overall health, I'm so glad to hear that you were taking care of you this evening and working out and taking a quick shower and jumping on the call, because what we know all too well at Healthy Women is that women do not prioritize themselves. We're always last on the list. We're never on the A list. We're always on the B list. Our dog's health comes before us. I mean, we'll make sure that dog gets to the veterinarian, but we'll be the first ones to cancel our women's wellness visit or reschedule our mammogram. So I am so glad to be here tonight and to dive into how we can be proactively looking at how we can manage and understand our financial health. So thank you for letting me be part of tonight's conversation.
Well, thank you so much. And we are going to be joined just momentarily by Sharon Epperson. She's a CNBC senior personal financial correspondent, and she was named one of the 12 to watch in TV news. You can see her regularly on CNBC, and she covers all different facets of how you should manage, save, and protect and grow your money. And she talks about retirement, paying for college, managing mortgages, student loans, credit cards, and dealing with the unexpected medical surprises. And I have to tell you that her passion is about planning for the unexpected and making sure that a medical crisis doesn't become a financial crisis. And she's going to share the story of her fight to live. She sustained a ruptured brain aneurysm that nearly took her life. And she shares her experience that will leave you with tingles, that will leave you in tears. But she shares, and she's so brave about this because she wants other people to be protected so that, again, a medical crisis that hurts you and so hurts your loved ones and family doesn't become a financial crisis. So with that, I would love to roll this special introduction that Sharon taped for us for this amazing evening.
Thanks so much, Stacy. It is my pleasure to join Savvy Ladies once again to talk about our health and our financial wellness. You know, I'm CNBC Senior Personal Finance Correspondent, as Stacy mentioned, and it is my profession and also my passion to help people better manage, grow, and protect their money. But what happens when the unexpected happens? How do you manage your financial life when your life is perhaps in jeopardy? That happened to me in September of 2016. I was working out at a gym. I was trying to do the right thing and have my spinach smoothie and do my core exercises before going into work. And as I was in a downward dog yoga pose, I felt the worst sensation ever in my head, touching my neck, because it was in my neck as well, in the back of my head. I couldn't turn my head. I knew something was wrong. And thankfully, I got up from that studio and I went to my car. Thankfully, I did not drive because I couldn't turn my head. I texted my husband. He came to pick me up. And I should have gone immediately to the emergency room. But I went home, put my feet up, texted work, told them I wasn't going to be able to come in that day. And I was going to go to the doctor and get checked out. When that happened, the doctor feared the worst, he said, and said I should go immediately to the hospital and get proper imaging. And what the imaging found was bleeding on my brain. I had suffered a ruptured brain aneurysm. A balloon-like substance had kind of formed on a vessel in my brain and it exploded. And that explosion resulted in my inability to be able to do much of anything for at least a month. I was in ICU for 2 weeks. I thankfully was able to recover and then go to a rehabilitation hospital where I had learned to balance, walking upstairs, communicating a little bit more effectively. Thankfully, I was always able to talk because that's what I do for a living. That was helpful. But I also needed to know how to balance a checkbook. Couldn't do that. Didn't have any sense of really how to manage my own affairs. And that was devastating to me psychologically. It was very difficult for my family. But here's what I had done ahead of time. I had prepared for the worst. I never really thought that I would need to do this, but when I started working with a financial advisor 20 years ago, one of the things that he encouraged me to do was to create an estate plan. At the time, I had no home, I had no children, I certainly had no estate, not that I have one now to speak of, but I did want to make sure that things were in place so other people wouldn't have to worry about what my husband and I would do with our finances. And so I had a will. I had a disability insurance, but I also had people set up that would be able to take control of my finances or make healthcare decisions if I was unable to do so. So having a durable power of attorney, having a healthcare proxy, these people actually had to fulfill their roles when I was sick. My husband is that person, and the contingent person, the successor, is my sister. They worked in tandem to make those key medical decisions that I needed and to help me with my finances when I was ill. The other thing that I did was I automated everything. My husband and I kind of have a yours, mine, ours relationship with our money, and putting things on autopilot helps to make sure whoever's paying what bill, it gets paid on time. And so that definitely helped, as he was at the hospital with me 24/7 for basically 2 or 3 weeks. It was important that our finances were taken care of automatically. The lights stayed on, the mortgage was paid, all of those really critical bills, internet for teenage children, all of that was taken care of by automating our finances. The other thing that I had done was save for emergencies, save for that rainy day. And this was a hurricane. This was not a rainy day. And I needed to have that money. And that also helped us be able to stay in our home and helped us be able to provide for the things that we'd set up for our children. But I think one of the most important things that I'd done was to have a conversation with my husband that was early on facilitated by a financial advisor. Wasn't sure if we were on the same page with our money. And I think a lot of women may feel that way, but you can find someone who is on your page and bring you together. And that's what we did. And that's what we have with our financial advisor. The other thing that I did was make sure I talked to family members so that my sister knew that she was going to be the guardian for our children if anything ever happened to us. And she did come and stay when I was sick and when I was in the hospital. It is really important to have those money conversations. And women, we have power. We have power as the chief domestic officers in many cases of our homes. Yes, we're running everything in addition to trying to balance our careers and balance our families. And so we need to take control of our finances as well. Create that team that you've already set up with neighbors and friends, perhaps, and relatives that may be helping you with household things and with family things. Set up a team to help you with your money. Do it now, do it before the worst case scenario, before the unexpected. Be prepared. It is critical to your financial life. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be a part of Savvy Ladies. Love this organization dearly and have a wonderful, wonderful time talking about what's so important for us, our health and our wellness.
And I have to say, feel free to unmute and clap. So Sharon is doing exactly what she is telling everyone to do, which is to take care of themselves. She's actually on vacation and didn't want to miss. In fact, she sent me some beautiful photos of her taking her first sailing lesson, and she's just smiling ear to ear. So she's such a wonderful example of someone who did prepare, because she was out of work for, I think it was now over a year. And it really was the unexpected. Our next panel, I'm going to bring it on, kick it on over to my co-MC today, Beth. We're going to be talking with Deb Gordon, and we're going to be talking about the state of women's health and money, focusing on recognizing personal cost for your health, what it costs, having the conversation about money and health, and what you need to know, how to prepare, what are some of the reasons that preparation is so important, and a whole lot more. So Beth, go ahead and say hi and introduce our amazing, amazing guest.
I am so pleased to introduce Deb Gordon, author of the Healthcare Consumers Manifesto, How to Get the Most of Your Money. She's also a former Chief Marketing Officer of Medicaid Health Plan and the former CEO of a healthcare technology firm. She's an Aspen Institute Health Innovator Fellow and an Eisenhower Fellow, and her work focuses on the intersection of healthcare and finance, and she regularly contributes to Forbes.com, and she is part of Healthy Women family, and she also contributes to Money Geek. Deb holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Bioethics from Brown University and an MBA with distinction from Harvard Business School. Deb, it's such a pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It's I cringe at the length of my bio, but I think the point is I care a lot about people, their health, and their finances.
So I'm going to kick it off, and then Stacy, please jump into if you have additional questions. But I'm going to start it off with, you authored the book, the Healthcare Consumer Manifesto, How to Get the Most for Your Money, based on consumer research you conducted. Can you tell us what are 5 things that you learned from that research that would relate with our audience?
Sure. I think the first and most important lesson that I took away from the research, and I myself and some research assistants, we interviewed dozens and dozens of consumers, some regular people, and we asked them about their healthcare. We asked them about their healthcare purchasing experiences, and people would say, like, what is that? What word are you saying? What's a healthcare purchase? And that is the first lesson, that we spend, one way or another, the money we spend on healthcare is ours. So we're paying out of pocket. We're getting, it's part of our compensation if we get health benefits from work. We're taxpayers. Many of us are. Most people are paying taxes and benefiting, from public programs such as Medicare or Medicaid at different points in our lives. And so one way or another, we are contributing to our own healthcare spending. And very educated people, even very educated people don't have any idea sometimes that that's really what's happening. And as a result, so one thing is sort of I'm going to count on I'm going to use my fingers for the 5. But the first one is people don't think about healthcare money or healthcare spending as their own money, and it very much is. The second is that as a result of not really recognizing that healthcare spending is really coming one way or another from us, we tend, not everyone and not in all cases, but we do tend to sort of take a more passive role in our healthcare lives than we do in other settings. And even if we're very active healthcare self-advocates for the care we get, very often we act helpless, or we feel helpless when it comes to the money part. I've interviewed so many people who said, well, I didn't have a choice. And then when they tell me their story, I interviewed a woman who had appendicitis, and she had several episodes of acute appendicitis. And in the second one, she didn't go to the hospital. Why didn't she go to the hospital? She knew it would be expensive. That's a financial decision. It's not a great healthcare decision, but it's definitely a financial decision. So that was one lesson, that people don't really take ownership or feel empowered to make healthcare financial decisions. And then even if they realize, so I'm going through my lessons, the third one I would say is, even if people realize they're spending their own money and they need to make some decisions for themselves about their care, people don't know how to do that. Again, it's not a function of education or intelligence. It's simply just not how we're taught. We're not trained for this. Nobody is. So that's 3. And 4, the system is really set up against us to make empowered financial decisions in our healthcare. How much will this cost? I don't know. No one can tell me. So even if you think to ask the question and you feel empowered to ask those kind of questions, it's very, very difficult to find the answers. It's getting a little easier, but it's still very difficult. And then let's see, I want to use my 5th lesson for a really good one. I think that the 5th lesson, I would say, I went off to, understand, why don't we act like shopper? The whole premise of the book is that Americans in particular are really good shoppers. We're very good at consuming things. We kind of invented conspicuous consumption. And yet in healthcare, it's so different. Why do we act so differently in healthcare? And what I think I learned from the research I did was that there is nothing deficient about us. We are more than capable of making good, rational financial decisions, and many people do. But it is these sort of the orientation, the training, and the system that gets in our way. But many, many consumers are trying to make good decisions for their health and their finances. Absent better systems, I think sometimes what happens is we make we make a suboptimal decision. And so people are trying to take ownership of their health financial lives. We need to support them.
Thank you so much. And the second question I have for you is the American healthcare system, and you just started shedding some light on that, number one, but the American healthcare system, honestly, my personal perspective is it's not a system at all. It's very confusing and it's failing on so many levels. How would you shape the system to better meet the needs of women and their families?
Yeah, I mean, this could be the whole hour easily, I think, and then some, right? There's so much work to do. I think, first and foremost, I think that women need to recognize the very powerful role that we have in the healthcare system. So I don't know how many of you here are moms, but I'm a mom and I'm a dog mom. Yes, my dog's vet takes precedence over my mammogram, I'm ashamed to admit, but yes, I can relate to that comment, Beth. But I've heard it described as sort of superhuman strength. Like when we're looking out for our kid, our baby, our dog, I love my dog like a baby. We can do anything, and we do not hesitate to ask a question. We don't hesitate to, push for what we need or advocate. We don't feel any shame or any hesitation, or at least I don't, if somebody I love needs that from me. But when it comes to ourselves, we're very often, as I said, and Beth, as you said, very much more passive and much more tolerant of really, like you said, sort of just a mess of a thing we call the healthcare system. And so I think the, number one thing would be that women ourselves need to recognize we have a ton of power. Every source you look at says we make 80% of healthcare decisions. Healthcare decisions are financial decisions too, in many, many, many cases. We have a tremendous amount of purchasing power. Think about, we bear the costs, and actually women spend more, we have to pay more for our healthcare than men. So we pay, women in my age bracket, 45 to 54, we spend like $6,000 a year on our healthcare, and men spend like $4,800. That's a big difference. So we have this added financial burden, but I invite us all to think of it as purchasing power. That's really the premise of my book, is what would it look like if we thought of our financial responsibility? It is a burden, but what if we also recognized it as purchasing power? So that's number one. We got to think about it like that and act like the powerful consumers we are.
And Deb, can I jump in? We
Please.
have a hand raised from Lisa Davis. Do you want to unmute, Lisa, and ask your question? Go ahead and unmute if you like, Lisa.
I'm going to
perfect.
try to remember what Ms. Gordon was saying, but you're saying that we don't make, I think I understood you to say that we consume a lot as Americans, but we make subordinate or not good decisions in regard to our health care. And I think some of it is out of our control, because that's why the term good doctor, do you have a good doctor to recommend, comes from. Because not every doctor operates in the interest of their patients well. And therefore, you have a lot of people not wanting to go to the doctors because they feel like they're going to be an experiment with the number of medications that are supplied to them, often having side effects. And therefore, it feels out of our control when because you haven't studied the 9 years of medicine, but you know what doesn't feel right in your body. And therefore, many people are trying to look holistically now to solve their medical issues, which is not always appropriate.
Yeah.
It is.
So Deb, can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you've done, you talk about this a little bit in your book as well. Can you share a little bit what your thoughts are with that?
I'm sorry, me or Beth? Me?
No, Deb, I
Beth.
haven't written a book yet, Deb. I might after this
Okay,
conversation.
Oh, sorry, I mean Deb. I mean Deb.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Yeah, but Beth, you feel free to jump in too, because
will.
this is,
Yeah.
I mean, this is your, you see this every day, and
Right, and that's part of Healthy Women. So Deb, you take it first and then I'll jump in.
Sure. And I want to say absolutely. First of all, I don't judge people's healthcare decisions. I don't mean to say people make bad decisions. I mean, we make the decisions we have to make. And sometimes the system doesn't really allow us or invite good decisions, like the woman who was so worried about the cost of an emergency room visit or an ambulance that she sat home through acute appendicitis. Her appendix could have ruptured. I mean, she's just lucky it didn't, right? But that's my point. That's not a good decision, but it's not her fault that she made that decision. It's not something wrong with her. It's something wrong with the system that makes her have to even think about it. So that's, I just want to clarify. But I think that you're right. And actually, Beth asked me how I would shape the system to, be better for women. One is that I would encourage women to think like consumers and sort of like we have more power than we may realize. The other, on the other side, is I would ask the system, providers, doctors, insurance companies, et cetera, to look at us like consumers. Like, we are paying a third of the bill, sometimes the whole bill, but in aggregate, American consumers pay about $1 trillion for a healthcare out of pocket between insurance and co-payments and so forth. That is a tremendous amount of money. And I think it affords us, or should afford us, the kind of respect we get when we buy everything else, right? We buy coats, we buy, food, we, glasses, we get to choose, and we are respected for our purchasing power. And I think what you're saying, Lisa, is that sometimes that's missing, and it leads to maybe lack of trust. And I think that's completely true. I hand it back to you, Beth, for anything you want to.
Oh yeah, and I think what I think, and I said this as I kind of opened up the question about the system. We need to turn the tables, because for so many of us, we wait until something is wrong, right? And so now we need to shift, and this is what Healthy Women is doing, to look at preventative care. So going while you're still well and not waiting until something's wrong. Easier said than done. I completely know that, but that's how the system works. You wait until something's broken and then you go and get it fixed. So an antibiotic that could have helped you a week ago, now you're in the hospital in the ICU room paying millions of dollars. And I know I'm exaggerating, but not really, for care, right? Because we put it off. So what we're trying to do is re-educate on the importance of preventative health, aging smart and aging well, taking care of yourself, putting yourself on the A list. And Lisa, to your point, yes, not all health, you may not be happy with your healthcare provider, but there's other options now, right? And so there's many more wellness centers that are open. People are using urgent centers. CVS and Walmart are implementing healthcare clinics. So there's more options available in areas that may not have had great access to healthcare. So I'm seeing improvement, but I also feel like we know our bodies the best. And if you do not feel like you're getting your answers, the questions answered correctly, and you're not feeling 100% comfortable, there are new options available. And I encourage everyone to get that second opinion and to look for, someone that you do trust, because that's half the battle, and making sure that you're cared for and that you're aging smart, aging well. So I've got another question, and I'm seeing, like, out of the corner of my eye, I'm seeing all these questions.
We've got lots of questions.
We've got lots of questions, right, Stacey? But I wanted to ask Deb, how have you seen healthcare finances impact women?
Yeah, I mean, I think, so I mentioned women spend, women's health costs more, basically. Women also, I think we all know, have a wage gap. So we are, in very generalized terms, we spend more on our health, or we need to, and we earn less than our male counterparts. And so, and there's certain conditions that affect us more, right? So we're subject to certain kinds of cancers more, autoimmune disorder. I'm not a clinician, but there's certainly health needs that we have. Reproductive years is, our reproduction is a really obvious one where we bear the brunt of reproduction physically. So I think what that means is women are in sort of a precarious position. We need more and we have less to cover it. What's been happening in healthcare, and I noticed, I didn't read closely, but I noticed some comments and points about the insurance industry in the chat and how, you know, it's a for-profit. I mean, even the nonprofit health insurers where I worked for many, many years make a lot of money. There's a lot of money flowing through that system. And part of what's been going on in healthcare in terms of finances is, I think probably everyone knows this, probably everyone's experienced it, and the data bears it out as well, that consumers are paying a bigger share of a higher bill. So healthcare costs go up each year. And for the past decade or more, consumers have been incrementally paying a bigger share. And so what is now, I think the average deductible is, believe it or not, I think this sounds low from what I understand, but it's in the $1,600 to $1,800 a year, the average deductible. Something like 85% of people have a deductible now. That was not the case a decade or two ago. I know anecdotally, and there are certainly data about certain segments, people who spend $3,000, $5,000, $8,000 in deductible before their insurance company picks up a dime. So, you know, all Americans are paying more for healthcare and struggling, but women are feeling it more. I don't know, Beth, if I've answered the question. I hate to end on that bleak and the answer.
No, I know. Let me ask, and maybe this question will shift it a little bit to, what are the top 3 reasons why money and healthcare preparation are so vital?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a kick right now thinking about the reality and the sort of injustice of this fact. But I really believe that how much money you have in this country determines how much and how appropriate and how high quality the healthcare you get. It should not be this way. It plagues me to say it, but I think it's true that if you have resources, if you have quote unquote good insurance, and even that's not enough, but if you have the resources, you can get good care, you can get timely care, you can get high quality care, you can leave the room if you don't feel respected by your doctor, you can get that second opinion, you can travel for a third opinion, etc. So it shouldn't come down to how much resource you have, but it makes a huge difference. And then, like we've talked about, we've had these examples of folks sort of holding back. You know, something like a quarter of Americans have gone without medical care because of cost, and that figure is higher for women. So you should not have to sit back from the care you need because of cost. The more you plan, the more you kind of can budget and plan for your healthcare expenses, the better your healthcare, your prevention and your treatment will be.
Deb, it's interesting. What you talk about, so it hits that. I found a chart that we just put up on the screen, and I was just dumbfounded by this chart. And essentially what this shows is that the greater wealth inequality in a country, the lower the life expectancy. So I invite everyone to look at the lower right-hand corner, and what country do you see as the lowest life expectancy, but the highest wealth inequality, highest wealth gap?
Mm-hmm.
It's us, it's the United States. And you see so many other countries that, you know, and some of them you may even think of as, you know, developing yet, not even fully developed nations, such as, you know, Spain and Portugal, where you can have that comment. But we see shorter life expectancies, exactly what you're talking about, Deb and Beth, not having access to medical care and not having the funds for medical care directly impacts mortality, lifespan, and quality of life.
Stacy,
Yes.
This is Gatan. One of the things that we frequently don't understand is that actually there's some good data from the Dartmouth Institute and the Tuck Business School that actually looked at whether or not more care actually was necessarily better care. So you may get more care if you're wealthier, but don't forget, with each thing that we do, there's risk to each thing that we do, and that risk is additive. So we just have to keep that in mind, that more care is not necessarily better care. So I just want to be cautionary about that, because you do have risks. The other thing is, you know, as a physician, I've been a physician in Canada, overseas, and in the United States. And so I've worked in many of these countries. I would say that the other big thing about the discrepancies and the inequalities is the people who are really in the biggest predicament are the people that are underinsured. So it's not the uninsured and it's not the overly insured. It's the people, the middle class people who have just enough insurance, but not quite enough to get exactly what they need.
That makes sense.
I have to agree with you on that. Even in the healthcare system that I work in maternity and postpartum. I see that all the time, and I completely agree with you on that point, Dr.
And I could just add, the Commonwealth Fund measures or calculates how many people are underinsured. It's a huge number. It's, I want to say 100 million. It's tens of millions of people in the US are considered underinsured. I think it's pretty bad to be uninsured too, but I agree completely that underinsured is terrible. The ACA did a lot to improve access to, at least to coverage for people who are in that sort of middle bind where they earn too much to qualify for like a Medicaid, heavily subsidized insurance, but too little to be able to afford their own coverage. So, and the recent legislation, the American Rescue Plan, also actually expands access to subsidized insurance even further. And that's the group they're trying to get at. It won't close the whole gap, but it's certainly, I think, a policy priority in Washington right now.
Well, thank you so much. We're running up against time. We could be talking for hours on this. And I just also want to mention to all of you who are putting great questions, we're going to be getting to some of them about health savings accounts, about insurance, about long-term care. But if we don't get to this, and even if we do, I'm going to ask you all to do something for yourself. Go to the Savvy Ladies website, savvyladies.org, and don't forget there's 2 V's because it's very, very good, savvyladies.org. And you're going to see right on that homepage a link to our helpline. We have hundreds of certified financial planners and experts, particularly in this area, that can help you with everything from Medicare choices to health insurance, COBRA, using the exchange, to being able to save and using health savings accounts. Do I need long-term care or not? We'll focus on a lot of this tonight too, but I also please do also visit the website as well. Our next panel is 2 phenomenal, amazing women. Precious Williams is a success story, and so many people think overnight success, but bless, she has worked hard, and nothing is overnight success when you put decades of work into where you are today. And she is one of the top business women, and is the founder of Perfect Pitch, has a really important story to share with us about healthcare, medical challenges, and she was our Savvy Ladies Inspiration Award recipient this last year, deserving every single honor that we were able to give her. And Carrie Rattle is a dear friend. She is a money coach, and she is, I think, I call her in my mind a money whisperer. She works with individuals who are dealing with that crap in our heads that holds us back from making good financial decisions. Because you can't save, you can't do all these things unless you make the right choices. And while I'm a financial advisor and I love numbers and I love to crunch numbers, Carrie is the person that will talk to someone to help them move through their money anxiety, help them make good decisions about their money, and deal with financial stress, which we know is one of the top three stressors of women. So two phenomenal women, Precious Williams of Pitch Perfect, and Carrie Rattle has her own amazing firm, financial coach, behavioral sense. So I'm going to throw it on over to them, and Beth and I are going to be asking lots of questions, and they're going to talk specifically about the impact of financial anxiety on women's health, what you can do to avoid this anxiety, and also share, Precious is going to share trips from the trenches of what she's gone through as well. So let me kick it over to two amazing women, Carrie and Precious.
Thank you, Stacy. Thanks everybody for being here. Would you like me to start off with my story, or Carrie, do you want to start with questions? Let's give it to them.
You go ahead, Precious. I'm happy to be here, and we're just gonna bounce back and forth and have some fun.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Precious Williams, proud founder and CEO of Perfect Pitches by Precious. I know Stacy always has a problem with the whole long name, but PPP for short. People being the PPP loan, so you'll remember it like that. And so I'm so delighted to share my story. So I'm from the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up in poverty. I grew up with parents who didn't want me. And I look back at my life. I'm 42 years old. Yes, I'm so proud to be 42. You have no idea. But I look back and I'm like, man, I can't believe for the first 15 years of my life, I didn't experience love. I didn't experience, family love, support, and guidance. I had nothing. I was living in places with no heat, no hot water, no electricity, as my father was deep into his crack cocaine addiction. My mother nearly beat me to death on November 18, 1991. And I don't say that lightly. I say that to be like, wow, that was 30 years ago, and I'm 42 years old. And so, if it wasn't for my grandparents, Precious Dolores Williams and Raymond Woodrow Williams, taking me in when I was 15 years old, I would not be here today. And it's funny, when I walked into their home, which I didn't have a choice in, they asked my father, actually told my father they're going to raise me. And I didn't want to go with these old people. I'm so glad I didn't make that decision. Because from the moment I walked into their home in another part of the inner city of St. Louis, Missouri, I was greeted with love. I was greeted with food. I was greeted with a grandmother who didn't want me walking to school. She drove me to school every day, rain, sleet, snow, or shine. She woke me up to do affirmations in the mirror with her watching me. She twinkled my toes in the morning, ran my bath water. All of that was great. But I don't think she knew what she would turn me into. My grandma said I had the gift of speech, and she told me that I'm going to know Oprah. Oprah's going to know me. All these great things. And I'm looking at her like, my own parents didn't want me, but I couldn't say anything, so I just had to keep it quiet. And wouldn't you know it, at 16 years old, the principal of my high school would ask me to speak at an event before the mayor of the city of St. Louis. I was 16. I don't think I thought about it. When I met the mayor of the city of St. Louis and I just spoke, my teacher wrote my speech. It was just game over. I did so well, standing ovation, that my next speech was before the governor of Missouri. Couldn't believe it. Just kind of like, oh, okay, well, young people, they do what they do. But I really wanted to go to college, and we never had a high school graduate in the family. And so I'm the first high school graduated valedictorian, class of 1997. I attended Spelman College on a full scholarship. Everybody told me I would never get in. I could never compete against the girls who've been at boarding school, came from money. I did that. And it was a wonderful experience. Yes, my educational background did not prepare me for the rigors of college, but thank God that I had great professors, and I went to tutoring to get myself together to become an honors graduate. And I graduated in 4 years with a degree in English, minor in art history, pre-law, full scholarship to Georgetown University Law Center. Yeah, I got kicked out in 2002. Y'all, I give it to y'all raw. Started over at Rutgers School of Law in 2003. Full scholarship, had a nervous breakdown in 2004. So I'm thinking, this law thing may not work out. Well, you know what? I spent 3 months in the psych ward, and the person who gave me my full scholarship, including the dean, came to my hospital bed and they said, you're going to get through this. We're not going to do to you what Georgetown did to you. You're going to get through this. And we're going to be right there at your graduation. I'm thinking, well, I graduated on May 25th, 2007. The #1 student attorney in my class, came to New York, did my thing. Hated being an attorney. Yes, I know, Lisa, smack me up. I know. But I didn't particularly, I worked at Sullivan and Cromwell, clerk for federal judge in the Southern District, did medical malpractice, but all of it sounds boring to me when I say it today. And I met an incredible man who encouraged me to start my first company, which sounds crazy now. It's 327 pounds. Started Curvy Girls Lingerie. People told me I was too fat, too black, and didn't have an Ivy League degree. No one was going to invest in my company. And this is why I think it's so important that we have these type of conversations, especially when it comes to, gender and intersection of gender and race and finances. I didn't have people who could give me the money, and the people that could didn't believe in me and said I should be grateful that I have a law degree and to stick to doing something I didn't want to do. Whereas other people, you can have you can go find yourself, you can take, I didn't have that luxury. So you know what I did? I decided that I'm gonna do what God told me. And so I started this company, didn't know how to pitch, went to an event, had negative $400 in my bank account, pitched to the producers of MSNBC. My first pitch got me on Your Business with JJ Ramberg, and I did the elevator pitch segment, walked away with $500,000 after 54 seconds of speaking. And I was like, oh my God, like I look back, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened. Like I had no money and talked myself into that. And they told me to go enter pitch competitions. And you know what? Out of 14 tries, I became a 13-time national champion. And then that led to movies and documentaries and Forbes magazine and CNN and Wall Street Journal, all the things that I used to think would never happen to an inner city, a girl from the inner city, you know what I mean? And to have gone as high as I did. Well, the man who was the love of my life died. And when he died, it was in the midst of my Shark Tank appearance in 2016. I started drinking heavily, and before I knew it, I lost it all. My business partner and I couldn't get along, and next thing I knew, I was on the street, tried to take my life on my 38th birthday. I'm 42, which is God, thank you. And when I tell you I lost everything, y'all, I mean, I went from a big life to a blue dress, a blue coat, and a book bag, eating out of garbage cans. And if it wasn't for the right people in my life looking for me and looking out for me, I was blessed to become a student of the Bowery Mission Women's Center, where I was in a Christ-centered life transformation program, clean and sober. I've been clean and sober 4.5 years now. I graduated September 17, 2018. And in the midst of all of that, you would think that when I walked out of homelessness, that would have been it. Oh no, God said it has just gotten started. And so in the time that I left homelessness behind, in September of 2018, I became a 3-time #1 bestseller of the Bad Bitches and Power Pitches for women entrepreneurs and speakers only series. I've written 3 #1 bestsellers. In fact, my 3rd book just came out on April 13th called Pitching for Profit, the Bad Bitches Playbook to Convert Conversations into Currency. I went from my phone never ringing to, becoming an international professional speaker, a corporate trainer for LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, Federal Reserve Bank, Intuit, QuickBooks. I could go on and on. But it really was pitching. It really was, women like you all who sat down with me. I was like, okay, Precious, you're going to go back into business. It's going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle, but you can do it. And you would think in the midst of a pandemic, an economic downturn, and social unrest, I would have stopped. But there were so many people who said, you couldn't do this, you can't do that. And I was like, man, I didn't went through homelessness and addiction. There is nothing I can't go through without God, And so when people were shrinking back and not asking for the sale or not making their clients and their customers a priority, I went full force because I wanted to prove once and for all, I don't care where you come from. If you have the right people around you, you keep going no matter what, the blessings do come. I do remember eating out of garbage cans. I do remember sleeping on the subway. I do remember all of those things. And today I sit in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself in my pastor's home. I literally there's another woman who is upstairs in the pastor's house. We were homeless together. And so blessed Bowery Mission, Dress for Success, Bottomless Closet, all who helped me get here. To get in front of these big companies and corporate, I didn't think I could do it because I was like, I've fallen so far. And what I've learned is I am not the sum total of my mistakes. I made mistakes, and we all have, and if we let all of that get in our way, we will not fulfill our purpose. And so I had to go through everything, like in the Bible, all those people who seem so flawed. I had to go through all of that to show what is possible. And so I am so excited to say that, whatever I made in 2019, we tripled it in 2020, and we're going to do that again this year. And so I am beyond happy. I'm so full. When I won the 2020 Savvy Lady Inspiration Award, you never think that inspiration will be put next to your name when you've gone through so much. And I think back to my grandmother, who's right there, her picture's right there, and it says always there. And if it wasn't for her with her affirmations and telling me that I could do it, if it wasn't for wonderful ladies like you all are, don't give up. I don't have every answer to financial questions. And that's why I'm here today too, to learn some things, because I don't know. It's not just enough to have a will. It's not just enough we need real education and real tips, tricks, and techniques to get to the next level. And if I didn't have the savvy ladies around me, I would probably just, be having an unhappy life. I am fulfilled every time I see a woman take flight. I'm fulfilled every time a woman says, I didn't think I could do it, and now I'm doing it. I started a company, or, I negotiated for a higher rate, like all these things. And that's what Savvy Ladies does. So I'm going to stop because I'm getting really emotional.
You are such a savvy lady, Precious, and you deserve all of that. And can we just all unmute, get off, hey, everybody get off and unmute and just,
all right.
Right.
Thank you so much. I didn't want to go over time. I'm sorry, Carrie.
No, well, Precious, you give me chills, and your authenticity allows everyone to be real. Your authenticity of what you share teaches us how important it is to ask for support. It teaches us how dealing with anxiety and financial anxiety is the key to being able to move beyond. And I totally understand and live this day to day of, having a business and how wonderful a business is, but how much stress there is with that one too. And so I would love to hear from you, Carrie. You see financial anxiety and financial stress in so many different ways. How does it impact us? And then, of course, you have to give us all the answers of how we get through it, right? So I'm just going to, prep you that we're looking for the answers, right? So paint the picture, but then we're nailing you down for answers and not letting you leave.
Okay. Okay, I can do that. So it's really important to know that I do not talk as fast as Precious. Can't keep up with her. But I do want to share some really important things, because I spend a lot of time with wonderful women like all of you. Hard workers, energetic, smart ladies. And quite often, the money conversation doesn't start because of shame, fear, embarrassment, denial. And what I want to say to all of you, first of all, is that I want you to kick shame to the curb, because there are so many social norms that do not make women comfortable with money. And you know what? They're like family recipes. They are still handed down generation to generation. So part of what gets in our way is the feeling that, oh, we are the worst out there. I have more debt than Carrie. I don't even want to tell you how much debt I have, because it's so embarrassing. I have worked with clients who have $5 million in debt and no house. So, I share that with you because I want everyone to have relativity here. There is nothing to be ashamed about, because women still are not taught how to manage money. As a matter of fact, our whole system doesn't even teach most people how to manage money, but we're still taught, some generations, even 20-year-old women today, that there's still a Prince Charming, which there isn't. We are still taught that men are better at managing money. And I used to be on Wall Street, and I can tell you, ladies, there are a lot of men who are not good at managing money at all. So do not assume your partner is good at it. You know, so there are so many myths. Women can't do math. Well, if you have ever counted your calories, you can do math. I'm telling you right now. So here's what financial stress looks like, which is really important because I think a lot of you have financial stress and may not even recognize it, because one of our coping mechanisms is denial or suppressing it, right? So sometimes when you have a hum of money anxiety in your body, whenever you think about money, you get a headache, you get tightness in your chest, you get a tummy ache, your shoulders go up like this. Whatever it does to you, that's sort of a stressor, and you probably have that hum ongoing. Sleeplessness, feeling of powerlessness, and fear. And it's interesting, fear works in two ways, right? So there's the fear of, oh my gosh, I don't want to look at my money because I know it's not in great shape and it's terrible. And I'll tell you right now, the fear is much greater than reality, always. And the second fear is when you're worried about your finances, you don't take risk. So you are less likely to go for a promotion, to take a chance on yourself, because you just want to keep what you have, be able to control it, and know that it's going to keep coming in, as opposed to worrying about taking a promotion and failing. So all of these things sort of get in the way, and that's what financial stress looks like, as well as if you are paying interest on your credit cards, if you are paying NSF fees, if you are paying overdraft, you are in financial distress. And here's the worst part of it. When you are under financial stress, you are likely to either overspend or underspend. If you underspend, you're not going to buy good food. You're going to say, oh, and I was talking with a client last night, a Savvy Ladies client. She said, oh, I can live on kind bars. I'll save the fresh food for my kids. No, 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 no. She's underspending on herself. She's not taking care of herself, right? Overspending, it's otherwise known as retail therapy. And sometimes we do it without realizing it. You have a bad week. You say, well, I just need a treat, or I need to go do this. And if we were to add all those little treats or rewards up, sometimes they mount up to enough money to actually pay for that mammogram or something else that you need. So when you're under stress, you don't always make the best decisions. And it's all of us. It's not any of you in particular. So it's really important to know this. So how do you avoid it, right? I'm going to talk about 3 key areas here. The actual money side, then your mindset side, and then a little bit about community. But here's what's really interesting that I learned. I was talking with an expert from Buck Institute last night, and she was saying, you know, we're funding a study that's talking about reproductive longevity, and it's all about what menopause does to women. So there are chronic illnesses out there, right? Well, as soon as you go through menopause, that increases the likelihood of a chronic illness, or it can exacerbate the chronic illness you have just by going through menopause. And I can tell you, I had low cholesterol my whole life. I went through menopause, boom, I had high cholesterol. So if you're going through all these things, what's really interesting is that menopause is like, you know, early end 40, 45-ish, you know, up 55 and beyond. Guess when women most often start looking at their money? 45-ish, 55 and beyond. So your body's doing these crazy things, and now you're trying to figure out, will I have enough money to support myself and my family? You know, what about my kids? What about my elder parents? So it's kind of like a double whammy, and I hadn't even realized that. So you've got these big things in your life going on at the health level and the finance level. So how to avoid getting into extreme financial distress. And some of these things are obvious, but I want to share them all. When you can, just as Sharon Epperson had, you want to have savings. You want to have that emergency fund. I mean, there's no surprise. But here's what we often do. I will never be able to save enough, so I'm just not going to bother. Called an overgeneralization, right? Or a catastrophization, depending on how we think about it. So even if you put $10 away a week, if you have a catastrophe, you're going to have even just a little bit of a buffer that's going to help. Every bit counts. It could just be food on the table, right? So second of all, create a spending plan. Also sounds really boring, but here's what I want you to do. All the discretionary spending that you have today, and it's your choice, you live your life, put it all at the bottom so that if you get ill, you pull out that spending plan and say, okay, these are the things I don't need to survive today. I can get them back 4 months down the road, but here are the things, boom, 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 that we as a family or I as a woman can cut right away to help save some money and put in a little bit of padding. Third of all, you want to prioritize your bills. Utilities don't have to be paid for months. They cannot legally cut off the heat when it's freezing outside because it's a health risk, right? Now, I'm not saying don't ever pay your utilities, but if you have to buy yourself cash flow, paying your medical bills or arranging a medical payment plan is so important. And here's why. If you don't talk to the hospital or the doctors about paying your bills, they will send them to a collection agency. That collection agency will get a judgment against you. That judgment will allow them to garnish your wages and take the money out of your account. I had a client who moved so much, she forgot about her medical bills. We finally got her into a great job. She called me one day crying, sobbing down south saying, somebody just took all the money out of my account. It was a medical bill. So when you prioritize, if you can't pay your medical bills, don't go into radio silence. Talk to them about a payment plan. People understand this, just don't disappear. Somebody asked about an HSA. There's also the FSA, the flexible savings account, right? And a flexible savings account is often offered by your employer. So I highly, highly encourage you to really look at your benefits for those of you who have a benefit package. Most people don't really look at them until they need them, right? An FSA, you can put in $2,750 in 2021. And here's what's so great about it. It's not taxed. It comes out of your paycheck, goes right into the account. And if you pay medical bills, you pay the bills. So it's not after tax money. It's like, boom, straight out. So you get more for your buck. An HSA is for those who don't have an FSA and who have a high deductible in their healthcare plan. And an HSA you can keep forever. An FSA usually expires every year. An HSA, you can have it go and go and go. So somebody was asking, is it wise to get one of those? If you ever plan on being sick, hell yeah. You know, because you're using pre-tax dollars. So it's very important if you can do one of those. Some of you may have a 401k, right? You may not know that you can have hardship withdrawals or hardship loans from your 401k. Now, I highly encourage you not to withdraw from a 401k because behaviorally, as humans, we tend not to put the money back in. But you can borrow from yourself. So if you have a 401k, you can take a loan out, and yes, you have to pay it back, but you're paying back yourself. So that way you're taking care of your long-term retirement, but you're using the money that's locked up sort of short term, right? So that's an availability as well. Home equity line of credit. If you're worried about that and you're both of you still have jobs, qualify for a HELOC. It just has to sit there. You don't have to use it, but it's available then when you potentially need it. Some employers have hardship loans. They don't necessarily put them into the regular benefits package. So you want to ask your human resources department for that. So those are a number of, you know, quick and dirty, ready to access that you might already have. Take stock of that. Where is your money sitting? What can you use, right? Now I want to talk a bit about mindset. And mindset is so, so important, because if you can
Carrie,
bring,
I'm just going to jump in. We have about 2 minutes. So
got it.
you got to give us all the answers in 2 minutes on
I can do
mindset.
that. Okay, so mindset, bring yourself down from that stress. Breathe 4 times, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. It's amazing how you clear your head. And journal. I can't tell you how many of my clients, you can vent in a journal, you can write down your gratitudes, you can write down everything you're worried about, and it helps you keep track of what's going on with your body when you're going through a crisis. So it's very key to manage your mindset as well as your actual money. How's that? In 2 minutes?
You did it in less than 2 minutes. That was phenomenal. And so thank you so much. And you know, just so everyone knows, Carrie is one of our amazing financial professionals on the Savvy Ladies Helpline. So does that give you an idea of what amazing professionals are there to support you? And again, the helpline is free of charge. You go right to the website, again, savvyladies.org, 2 V's, because we're super, very, very good. So let's go ahead and move to our next panel. And Beth, feel free to jump in here too. We have a really special guest here, Christy Rodriguez and Gaetan Michaud, and 2 of the top women that understand health and money. Gaetan is on the front lines. She, as she mentioned, is a doctor. She's the professor of medicine and cardiothoracic surgery, chief of pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine, and has a lot of insights to share with us for women and health, in particular talking about COVID and what she's seen, and we may even get some of her thoughts about what COVID might be for us going forward. And also we have a very special guest, Christy Rodriguez, she is the Senior Vice President of Nationwide Retirement Institute for Nationwide Financial. They do significant research and surveys about women's issues, women health, that she's going to be sharing with us tonight. And a very special thank you to Christy, her entire team, and Nationwide for being our sponsor to make tonight happen. They really were just wonderful to work with, and so generous with the monies that they gave to Savvy Ladies that allow us to pay it forward and have our amazing program and helpline that we serve. So please unmute both Christy as well as Gaetan. We're excited to have you here, and we're gonna finish up at 7:30, so we're gonna be on time. And make sure that you stay tuned, because this is going to be some really helpful, interesting, and enlightening information for you.
So Stacey, I'm looking at the slide and I'm seeing some of our healthcare surveys. So I'm assuming you want me to jump right in. That
is you, Christy. And this is one of the research programs that Nationwide has, which is really interesting about Millennial and Gen Xers.
Absolutely. And just, before I jump in, it has just been a pleasure, and Nationwide is honored to partner with Savvy Ladies. I can't think of a better forum, getting inspiration from Precious, great information from Deb and from Carrie, and then also Gaetan. So we're going to really just make sure we bring this home. So really what Stacey indicated is so important. We look at health and wealth at Nationwide, and Nationwide Retirement Institute is being intertwined. There is no way you can look at them separately. And in an effort not to repeat everything that we heard, it's so very important for women. I look at all of these beautiful women on the screen. I'm looking at, women in my own life. Our lives are so busy, whether you're a working professional, you stay at home, you're juggling kids, you're juggling fur babies, or even aging parents. We're dealing with a lot. And that's why health and wealth is so important. When I think about the wealth side, the immediate things that we hear a lot from women is, one, we all know about how COVID has impacted us, but just the amount of debt. And I know this was said earlier, but I just want to throw this one stat out there, that if you look at the top 5 reasons for consumer bankruptcy, medical expenses are always at the top. They're generally always number 1 for the last 15 years. And as a close second is unexpected expenses. And so when I look at those two, we definitely know that they play some level of interaction. And so it's so important when we looked at our survey, and we did a double click when Stacy was sharing on the screen, is we looked at women across multiple generations, millennials, Gen Xers, boomers, and even some of the silent generation. And what came out of their statistics is a lot of what's impeding me health-wise is I'm stressed about my financial well-being. And we said, some of the preventative measures they were taking, weren't great preventative measures. I think Deb mentioned this, and so did Carrie. Is not like they're saying, I'm going to take a preventative measure and I'm going to go to the doctor, I'm going to participate in a wellness program. A lot of them were saying, I'm cutting my pills in half, which is, now they're becoming a physician for themselves and making those decisions, or bypassing, the amount of medical care that they need. But an astonishing piece that I wanted to bring to the table that is a little bit different than what the other presenters, and I remember seeing this in some of the chat, is we forget women are often in the position where we're caregivers on both ends. So we're caring for our young children, and we're also caring for aging loved ones. And what the pandemic has done, and the survey that we did just during the time of the pandemic, really brought to light that this is no longer like an older Gen X or baby boomer situation. We're seeing a number of millennials saying, I'm stressed. I can't miss a day of work to care for my loved ones, or I fear that I'll bring something to my loved ones that I'm caring for. And I have my children at home, and I'm looking at some of the folks on the screen. I'm sure you did not plan on becoming an educator last year. I'm going to support every raise for teachers from now on personally. But it brings to light that we don't often think about that caregiving aspect is something that not only weighs on us physically, but it's something that we need to think about in this more sandwich generation of how are we planning for that in the future. And so that's why long-term care insurance, and I know there's a lot of misnomers. And again, I love what Stacy said, calling and reaching out to the advisors and savvy ladies to have that dialogue on what long-term care is not only good for your loved ones, but for yourself. And there's so many different nuances out there. It was not just a matter of getting this care in facilities. There's also an opportunity for you to be able to be compensated or compensate your loved ones for caring for you in the home. But I strongly encourage you, and when we have time for the second question, I had a couple of tips that I wanted to share. But really, when we think about that health and wealth intersection, it's so important that we're, thinking about it not just from a singular standpoint, but a standpoint of how do I think about ways that I can manage my expenses now and plan for the future, knowing that women are on average going to live a lot longer. I think they said now in the last 25 years, life expectancy is 3 times. And there are 80% women compared to 20% men living beyond 90. So ladies, we not only have to take care of ourselves now, but we have to think about that longevity that we'll have in the future.
Thank you so much. And I encourage everyone to look at the chat. We've got some great conversations going on with different studies about the importance of preventative care, of keeping yourself healthy, and how keeping yourself healthy and the control you have can make a huge impact on your financial future. As you mentioned, Christy, medical issues being the number one source of bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy. Gaytan is an amazing woman, a story of triumph, where she will share was at one of the lowest points of her life, not only diagnosed with breast cancer, losing all of that gorgeous blonde hair, my dear, and a husband who was divorcing her.
Yep.
And the care she went through with chemotherapy left her unable to be a surgeon, so losing her profession as well. And so many women find themselves in difficult situations because of cancer, because of many medical issues. And Gaytan, you are an amazing woman who has triumphed over that. And thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys. This meeting means an awful lot to me, and I will tell you why. I have been on the side of providing health care to women for many years. And I have also been a cancer patient and still am a cancer patient. I also worked very closely with Lisa Siderman. She was my attorney when I was going through a really nasty, very contentious divorce, and fighting for my own financial health, as well as my physical health. And, you know, one of the things that we don't consider is that, you know, we have that fight or flight thing. Well, that fight or flight thing is adrenaline, and adrenaline's hard on your body. And there's actually real data to suggest that actually having that high level of stress constantly negatively impacts on your health. You know, I was lucky. I went for an annual mammogram talking about preventative health, and I was found to have stage 2 breast cancer. I didn't have the ability to stop working. I had a lot of issues. I went to work bald. I went to work sick. I went to work and I went to work and I went to work. I, just like all the other women on this panel, I stood up. You know, people say, well, you know, it was really hard. It must be really hard for you. How did you do it? I couldn't have done it. And I was like, well, what was it going to do? I'm a single mom of 2 little 9-year-old twin girls. And at the time they were 5. And I had a choice to stand up and show them what I wanted them to be, which was strong and resilient. And when faced with challenges, that they would too would stand up. Or I could pull the blankets over my head and abandon my kids. And that wasn't an option. I was very lucky because Lisa was incredibly kind with me throughout the entire process. You know, she kicked me in the pants when I needed to be kicked in the pants and gave me a hug when she thought I was going to topple over. So it tells you the importance of your friends, of your support system. I also would tell you guys the other person, Andrea Levis, was really great for me too. She was actually my therapist throughout all of it. And she really stood beside me and they kept me going. You know, I risked losing everything. I took every dime that I had to leverage for a really great attorney that got me through. On the backside, I just want to give back. You know, I've been a doctor for 20 years. I've been a Harvard professor, and to go from a Harvard professor to somebody who is kind of getting called by their attorneys, like finance people saying, so how much money can you give us? And I'm like, as much as I can. I'll leverage my credit cards to be able to pay my legal bills. But on the back end, I'm in a much better place, and I was able to maintain all of the money that I'd put away for my rainy day. So all of my retirement savings actually stayed with me, which is amazing. And you know, on the back end, the thing is all that money is going to go towards my children, and that's what's really important. You know, it's really important for me to be able to leave something behind. Who knows what's going to happen with my health? Because, you know, it's a reality. You know, breast cancers come back, and I'm very cognizant, and it gave me that second look of, even once something does happen, you need to continue to look forward, right? You need to continue to think about what the future holds for you, and you need to continue to plan. You can't stop planning because you actually have a negative event. You have to plan and plan and plan. I will tell you the end of the story, which is, we now live in Tampa. We used to live in New York. I fought COVID for 6 months on the front line. I took care of your loved ones day in, day out. I sent my children to Maine for a month because I was terrified of giving them COVID. I changed in my garage and took a shower every day before going anywhere near my family. I still do that. I wore what looked like a gas mask because I didn't have a normal immune system and was fighting COVID anyway, because I couldn't, in my heart of hearts, could not help. The idea that people were dying all around me and I was doing nothing would have made me feel like a horrible human. And I just couldn't do that. But, you know, we don't know. I guess the moral of the story is you never know what's coming at you. Even the people that do it all right. I was preparing for a half marathon when I found out that I had cancer. You know, even though I was, you know, a doctor and working and you know, and when you challenge what you think you're able to do, you realize you can do a lot more. And you know, I never thought that I'd be able to stand up and you know, fight a divorce, fight somebody who is a horrible narcissist that Lisa hates, you know, fight the bullies, stand up for my kids, be there, be present every day for my children, be present every day for my patients. And when we talked about shame a few minutes ago, shame comes in so many forms. You know, at first I was ashamed to walk around with no hat and with no hair. And then I just decided to own that too and threw off the hat and walked around with my bald head. You know, and I think that the message is that you can do so much if you have the right people in your corner. And these ladies are phenomenal. These ladies are in your corner. They're going to stand behind you. They're going to help you get through anything. And, you know, we have a brand new life here. We are about to move into our brand new house. We are financially sound and I'm healthy. So, you know, it's all about putting your head down, pushing through and knowing that you can do it. And, you know, good luck to all of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gaetan. And I would love to have Christy just end with a few comments. And there's also a few things we didn't really get time to speak about, you know, unless, you know, Christy talks a little bit, but, you know, long-term care and long-term care insurance, and is that right for you? And we have wonderful webinars on long-term care right on the Savvy Ladies website. We have hotline financial experts that eat long-term care policy and declaration pages for breakfast. In fact, a few of them are even on this call tonight. There are so many other issues that we would love to talk about, but I know that we're a little restricted on time. But again, a thank you to our amazing sponsor, Nationwide, and Christy representing them. Christy, do you want to close with a few words? Because I know you have some special tips to share.
Yeah, I just want to leave away with 5 tips. Really, we heard this over and over again. Talk about money. This is so important. There's no shame. Carrie mentioned that. This is also a great exercise of how we can leave a legacy. Start saving and investing now. It's amazing what small amounts will do. I live by the proverb that goes, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. So wherever you are, start saving and investing. We heard this, and it started with you, Stacy. Prioritize your health. And I would put, you know, listening to Precious, especially your mental health at the top. I also say to myself every day, I can do anything, but I can't do everything. And so I have to make sure that I'm creating boundaries, and I encourage all of you to do that. The 4th is have a long-term plan discussion with your loved ones. Again, this is a great opportunity to have an intergenerational conversation, again, about how you want to receive care, but as well as your loved ones that you're caring for and your children to hear this. It has to be a community effort. And to Stacy's point, we didn't get a chance, but I'm more than willing to share information when we send out a follow-up note around resources. Is consider life insurance and long-term care. It is not this highly expensive piece anymore of long-term care. There are a lot of great options, and trust me, it will pay dividends when we think about longevity and actually putting you in a position to control how you want to receive care in the future. So again, Stacy, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for connecting so many fabulous women, and I wish you all a great evening. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. And I just like to say thank you again to Beth. Do you want to say a few words? It was just so wonderful emceeing with you. And if you could just share a little bit more about Healthy Women, because the work you're doing and the support you have would be just perfect for the attendees tonight.
So Stacy, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I feel like I haven't said anything because these stories, like everyone's stories are so amazing, right? There's not even room to interject. I'm listening and learning with all of you, but thank you. And Healthy Women, I restarted the organization in 1997 because they were going to close the doors. And I said, nope, there is such a need to keep this organization moving forward. We were created as the only women's health organization that answered the phones. At the time in the 90s, there was no internet in the early 90s. It was me answering the phones, breaking every copyright law that there was to get women the information they needed to make an educated decision about their healthcare. It was all about making sure everything was medically vetted, that they had the tools to have that conversation no matter what their socioeconomic background was. And so fast forward, I created the online site. We are a digital platform. Again, everything is medically vetted. We are the #1 women's health resource site that addresses all women's health and wellness, so women can log on to us 24/7 and get the information they need to age smart and age well. So thank you so much for having us, and I look forward to additional conversations about how we can improve our health as well as our financial health.
Thank you so much. And I just want to give a shout out to, we have Dress for Success. Marjorie from Dress for Success just put some great information in the chat. Anyone that's looking out for professional development attire and support and just professional development in total. And I know Precious gave them a wonderful shout out as well. They are one of our partners of Savvy Ladies, and we do a lot of programming and have a helpline, Help Dress for Success. And again, I'm over the moon happy that we had this conversation. And I know it's just the start, but it's what needs to happen. The conversation needs to start, and we need to support one another. Know that we're going to be having many more salons going forward, and that we're starting to plan for our wonderful gala. I'm going to kick it on over to Lisa Zardeman, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, just to talk a little bit more about the gala. You're going to be getting some information and actually a request to see if you'd like to join our gala patron sponsors. And so if you want to say that, and I can share the date of the gala too at the end.
Sure. Thank you all for attending. It was a fabulous program, Stacy, and thank you Nationwide and all of our speakers. We really appreciate it. As Stacy mentioned, we are getting ready for our gala, which will be November 18th. It will be virtual, but we are going to be having a kickoff party on August 15th at my home in Garrison, New York. And we'll put in the chat what the address is. It will be actually at 2 o'clock. So for people who want to do something in person and be poolside, it will be a kickoff party. We would love for all of you to attend and for all of you to get involved in the gala itself by becoming gala patrons, support systems for us. And we will be getting you information about that in the next few days. And all of those people who would like to do that, we invite you to the kickoff.
Can I leave the meeting, please?
Thank you so much. Thank you. So everyone have a wonderful evening. We will follow up with everyone. Again, the party not to miss, the pool party not to miss is on August 15th. I know I'm going to be coming in for that, and it's going to be a great day. We're going to also have another one in Manhattan at my home in September. So if you can't make it to Garrison, we'll be following up with another date. It's a wonderful way to support and meet other fabulous individuals who care about financial literacy for women. So thank you to everyone. We will be following up with the resources. Christy promised we'll be sending a copy of our PowerPoint and also a link to the recording. I know that we all have lots of things going in our life, and a few people had to join a little late, a few people had to leave a little early. But most importantly, I'm sending the biggest hug that Zoom can deliver without essentially dropping. I'm sending that warm hug to all of you, and a great big thank you for your support. Thank you.